What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 97 of Into the Necrosphere. And today, my guest is the great, the powerful, and always entertaining Kelly Shaefer of Atheist and Till the Dirt. We spoke about Atheist being outsiders in an outsider genre. We spoke about how in recent years folks have really sort of come around to the Atheist sound and embraced the band. We spoke about Kelly's other musical project, Till the Dirt, as well as a whole host of other topics. So whether or not you're a fan of the man's music, I suspect everybody's going to enjoy this. And I always love catching up with him. Some of you will remember that he was on one of my Death Metal Countdown shows. And he and I really hit it off, and it was awesome to have him back on the show again. So that's going to be coming your way very shortly. Even though this is a long one, I know I also promised last week that I'll be talking about the new Cult Burial and the new Lvcifyre records, and I am a man of my word, so that'll be coming your way later on in the show. And I will also be talking news and talking trash. So that'll be right at the back end of the podcast if you stick around until the graveyard shift. A couple of the usual quick reminders. If you're not already a subscriber, smash that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you consume your podcasts on. Also follow the show on social media. On Twitter, I am at iNecrosphere. On Instagram and Facebook, I am at Into the Necrosphere. And then finally, if you want to rep your colors and look both stylish and like an absolute badass, then head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store and pick yourself out a t-shirt or a hoodie. Thank you very much to everybody for checking out the podcast. Once again, I know I've said this many times on the show, but I am blown away by the sheer number of podcasts that are around, as well as the sheer number of new podcasts starting, what seems to be every single week. And the fact that this one continues to grow and people continue to love it and, continue to send me messages saying that, they've just discovered it, they're getting into it, as well as the old guard that, have been around for a while and again, continue to stay loyal. It just absolutely blows me away. And, I really hope that in the coming weeks, I'm going to continue to put out content and episodes that is worthy of that level of support, because it is something that I really do not take for granted. So thank you very much. Hope you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Welcome back, my good friend, Kelly Shaefer of Atheist. I can see you, young blood. How are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, no, I'm all right. Thank you very much, mate. I didn't realize that it was your birthday yesterday.
Well, Monday actually.
Monday. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I assume now that you've hit your 40s, you're starting to feel like age is catching up to you.
40s, I wish.
Did you do anything to celebrate?
I went to dinner with my wife and had a really nice dinner, and we went out for drinks, which is, with kids, it's a blessing to get out of the house, and especially these days with everything that's going on, I don't get out too much and trying to stay away from the COVID shit, trying to stay healthy, and my wife works at night in a bar, so I'm home with Thor in the evenings. Making music and hanging out with him, So
he seems like an awesome kid, mate. I've seen the stuff that you post on Facebook, but he seems
he's the best, man. He's the best, man. I love it. He keeps me on my toes, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
My daughter was a lot different. She's 15 and she has autism, so she's a unique character. So the difference between her and, raising her and then Thor is like this, sort of refreshing little, because with autism, a lot of times I don't get to have a conversation with my daughter, really. I mean, we do, but it's very, very basic, call and answer, how was your day? Good. Do you want something to eat? Yes. But with Thor, he just says funny shit all the time. And for me, he just cracks me up, and he's so fucking cute. And, so, it's weird. You have kids when you're in your 30s or 20s, so when you have a child in your late 40s, it's unique. You appreciate it more, I think,
I'm going to be going down that route myself. So I have a daughter that's 7 years old. But I'm not with her mom anymore. My girlfriend now is 15 years younger than me, and I'm pretty confident she's not going to let me slide with, saying, I'll devote my life to this dusty old fart, but I'm not going to have kids, so don't worry about that.
My wife is 24 years my junior.
Mine's 15, so I'm not quite there, but like I said, I've not. I'm under no illusions. I'll need to produce in a couple of years' time.
Get her done, Jackie.
Yeah, no, very much so. But you mentioned COVID, man. I spoke about this on last week's podcast, so I'm not going to talk about it for too long. But I just came off a fucking hellacious bout of COVID.
Oh, you had it?
Oh, yeah, dude, it was rough, absolutely rough. And
were you vaccinated or
no? And I'm not anti-vax. I've described myself as vax lethargic. So it's just
you just didn't get around to it.
Yeah, it was like I had it in the diary a couple of times because over here everything gets done by the government. So I had it in the diary a couple of times and I just never got around to it. It was always something that would always come up. Like I'd have my daughter for a week and I thought to myself, I don't want to be sick because I know some folks kind of feel a bit shit for a couple of days after they've had it. And then my girlfriend tested positive for it, and I skated by for about 4 days, and thought I was the cock of the walk. I was like, it's going to be easy. I'm immune to this shit. And Saturday morning, I went for a PCR test. I drove home Saturday, and by the time that I pulled the car in, I was at fucking death's door. And literally, I have never been so sick in my entire life. It was fucking horrible.
I've lost 3 people in the last 3 weeks to COVID. People younger than me. Well, two of them were younger than me, and it's just nothing to fuck with, man. I can't. No. And we live in I don't know how it is in the UK or we're over in in Europe in general, even altogether. But in America, in the US, it's just people. There's this insane divisiveness about getting this vaccine, and in the US, you have to, in order to go to school, you had to have smallpox vaccinations, measles, mumps and rubella, all that, so it's not this uncommon thing, that all of a sudden now there's this culture of idiocy where people are like, my freedom, my body, my freedom and my choice. And it's like, listen, you're affecting my industry. Like music is, I don't know that we can take another year. I don't know the music industry can take another year or any more lockdowns or anything like that. It's already just done such damage to us personally. I've never in my life felt any sort of depression at all, but I feel darker, and I can't. Since I'm 16 years old, I've been doing this, and tours keep getting canceled and pushed back and trying to find I have the Till the Dirt record, which is in any other setting would be signed, sealed and delivered, but right now the record companies, you can't blame them. They were backlogged with 10 11 different records that were supposed to come out last year, and we're still in this fucking mess, and now it's even worse in the United States anyway. It's with the variant and everything. So I just it's shocking to me that people don't just they'll say, well, you don't know that vaccine's not going to kill you, and it's like, yeah, but I do know that COVID will. There's 650,000 people are dead. There's not 650,000 people dead of the vaccine. So anyway, it's just it just sucks because when you work, we missed our 30th year anniversary because of this. And you can't get those kinds of marquee anniversaries back. We can't and so I guess we'll have to wait till our 35th anniversary, but for it to mean it, to have some sort of substance. But it just really costs a lot of people a lot of things, but just the loss too. Almost daily, just somebody's either coming down with it or I'm losing someone, and the hospitals here in my town are packed full of, the ICU is just full of people, and pretty scary, man. And I, as a smoker of 30 plus years, I'm a huge risk of not getting through it. Do you smoke?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, I've never smoked in my entire life. I mean, generally speaking, I don't really get sick. I've been lucky enough most of my life. I've literally never had to go to the hospital. The last time I actually visited a doctor for any reason, I was 12 years old. I don't get sick. I don't need to go to doctors. And that's why I probably thought that I was bulletproof against this thing. And like I said, I lasted about 4 days, but when it got me, it really got me. And the one thing that I mentioned last week, it doesn't feel natural. It's like the most unnatural illness that I've ever had in my life. It's like it's like it hacks into your body's DNA and fucks around with certain things. Like your smell goes away, your taste goes completely away. And when I say goes away, I mean it's just like it's switched off. You just can't taste a thing.
That's fucking crazy to me. I can't even know. I don't even know.
It's nuts. And then the other thing is depression. Like I've never ever been depressed in my entire life, and this is like I was going through it, and I said to my girlfriend, like, I literally feel fucking depressed. I don't know how else to describe it. Like I think I was watching a movie with her, and I was getting all emotional watching it, and it's nothing, nothing to even get emotional about. But it's a weird thing. But I think I've shaken most of it now. I'm back at the gym. My taste buds are kind of okay again. I had a couple of glasses of wine tonight, and it couldn't really taste it, but it might just be shit wine. But the for the most part, I can get through a workout. I don't feel brain fog. That was the other thing. Like the side effect of it is the brain fog is fucking crazy. Like it's like there's like a fifth of a second disconnect between your mouth and your brain. And you'll be thinking shit and trying to say it, but you just can't. There's just no connection. And a lot of people I've spoken to who've had it said exactly the same thing. And for me, with work and with a podcast and stuff like that, I can't afford for that shit. So
it's amazing that you got through it. I'm glad you got through it. And probably one of the main reasons is, not being a smoker, not having respiratory issues probably, puts you in. Do you feel like you had the COVID-19 or the Delta? Did they tell you the difference?
No, over here you don't get anything like that. So you literally get a text message saying you tested positive, and that's that. And then they say, and they say, call us if you feel dizzy.
So, if you feel dizzy,
yeah, and that's pretty much it. So they say, stay at home, get plenty of water. If you feel short of breath or dizzy, call us. And that's pretty much that.
Last week,
about a month ago.
Oh, a month ago.
So actually, no, about 3 weeks ago, I'd say.
Well, I'm glad you made it through, my friend. Damn.
Yeah, man. And what you're saying about folks, experiencing mental health issues during all of this shit. I mean, that's true. Obviously, the news about Mike Patton just came out now.
Yeah. I wondered whether that has something to do with all of this, because it's just this unprecedented. For artists, it's like somebody stuck a potato in our tailpipe. Yeah. You know what I mean? And our motor is just burning up, you know what I mean? And that's how I feel. I just feel so much frustration and to not be able to even though I'm able to create music, I can't even get it out to people. You know what I mean? I just made this record I'm so proud of, and I've been sitting on it for 8 months, or more than that actually. And it's just so frustrating to not be able to get out and hear the sound of a crowd and, you work 30 years in one band and get to a point where you finally get to go pick the fruit, and can't do it. And, and there's no one you can yell at really. I mean, other than people that, that won't wear a mask or get vaccinated necessarily to help speed this up so we can get past this and get back to some sort of semblance of life. But, yeah, it's just I definitely have never in my life ever felt any sort of darkness until now. Like it's just a really weird thing to I would imagine a lot of people are feeling that way, but certainly artists and musicians that are being sort of held back, and it's hard to contain my the energy that I have, and I need to get it out. So I'm trying my best to find ways of staying creative and just writing and then also when you have kids, it's super dangerous to take them to the park. And, you saw my Facebook yesterday, I took Thor to the beach. The beach is the one place I feel like safe. I feel like, it's so wide open. It's a really large beach. There's, not a bunch of people there. So I feel like it's a safe haven to take him because he's not vaccinated yet. So, it's very terrifying. The thought of him getting it breaks my heart. It would be horrible. And my daughter has it. She has the vaccine. My wife and myself, but he's only 4 and he can't get it till he's 5. So we got to hang in there till December and try to, because my wife working in a bar as well, it's dangerous. Even though she's vaccinated, you can still carry it, I guess. So it's just very scary times, just like some horrible movie that won't end.
Yeah, no,
Right.
totally agree. And I wanted to talk to you about Till the Dirt because obviously I've been fortunate enough to hear it. And, again, I shared some notes with you on Facebook, but, I've given it a listen subsequently a couple of times and, sat down and properly listened to it. And it really is a fucking fantastic record. I feel like it blends a lot of the elements of Atheist, kind of particularly Latter-day Atheist with modern metal, but it does it in a way that really, I think when people hear it, it's not like anything that's out there at the moment. It's extreme, it's catchy. I think it's kind of, it's intense, it's creative, it kind of catches you from left field. On a lot of moments on the record. You kind of hit the nail on the head. I feel like in an ordinary world, there would be so much hype around this, and around this album coming out. I was going to ask you, how is that going as far as getting label interest, as far as generating, potential deal for the label to get it, or from a label to get this put out.
It's there's interest, but that interest is sort of has a governor on it, because it's while they want to, they're now acknowledging, like what you said, that many people, guys like Monty Connor and Nuclear Blast and people that I respect that have been around, A&R for a long time, have said, the same thing you're saying, that I don't think there's anything out there like this. This is really, for better or for worse, it's super unique, and it's very catchy, and it's not supposed to be because it's very extreme. So typically you don't. So I hear that from a number, consistently from people whose opinion I respect, and it's been nice to hear that. It would be great if we were in normal times where that would equate to, hype and label deal and everything going. But there are some irons in the fire that I don't want to jinx it, but it's I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like it'll get its day, but it won't be till next year. I really had high hopes to have it out by spring of this year, but I don't see how that can happen with everything. We're already in the last half of this year, and so if hopefully by spring of 2022, which will be a better landscape for us to be able to go and play and get out and support the record as well. I think it's really going to be interesting to see how this band, because this, as I think I told you, these songs have never been played live. Like I, wrote all these songs myself at home, and then I brought in band members to learn it and record it. So it wasn't just me playing everything, and made a band out of it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it is live. We've never played these songs in a room together. So that is I believe is going to take on a whole another level of ferocity and because there's moments on this record that are I can see, as a front man, I know there are moments in songs where you can really take advantage of a feeling and you can pull the crowd in on certain things. And there's breaks and moments where I know that I can, there's chantable moments. There's elements of catchiness that don't typically happen in this, when there's that much speed involved, and the way the vocals ended up sitting on top of these weird sort of blast beats, and there's just so, and also combining that sort of Seattle element with that Norwegian element almost at times. It has a black metal feel that'll just peek its head in every now and then, and I'm not a black metal guy by any means. And, I have no idea what I don't even know what the best black metal band is out there, but I've just had other people tell me that. But I feel like vocally I'm the most proud of this than anything I've ever done. I feel like I found a new way to express myself vocally, where it's not just, there's a lot of people that have followed my career in Atheist that have no idea about Neurotica at all. And so if you were fully versed on my career, you would know that there was, that I can sing and do harmony vocals and stuff like that. Not unlike something like Alice in Chains. And then, and then have that screaming element. So, what happened was when I went when I left when I left Atheist in the '93 and started Neurotica, and then I became a singer, and then I went out and toured and didn't revisit that Atheist voice for 17 years. So then when I came back to Atheist, I was trying to sing it. I was trying to sing those grovelly vocals, and it wasn't necessary. And it was actually harder for me to do the Atheist vocals again, because I was trying to come from my diaphragm as opposed to coming, which a lot of screaming comes from your throat. For me anyway, it's a for my kind of vocals anyway. I don't do a lot of deep stuff. So I'm from the world of Shamir and Millet, from Creator and Destruction. I always enjoyed those kinds of vocals, that high witchy shit, and but I was trying to almost scream in key, back when I did Jupiter. And I'm proud of the vocals on Jupiter, but I just feel like I wish I could do that again with this new technique that I kind of learned from Travis, from Cattle Decapitation. Like I was just like, it was just like light bulb went off in my head when I watched him sing. I was like, he's not bent over in excruciating, effort. He was just effortlessly going, holding these screams for a really long time. And I was like, our voices sound, he has a very high witchy kind of approach as well. But he would literally just stand there, and he wasn't exerting. He wasn't, there was no veins popping out. It was just, yeah. And I was like, man, so I love to tell that story these days. And I tell him all the time, if I talk to him, like he was an Atheist fan. That's how we ended up on that tour. And he was kind enough to bring us out on that tour. And we got to play for a lot of people that we would never normally get to play for. As a result, if he was even remotely influenced by Atheist, he ended up influencing me, and I think that's a really, really cool thing. And I think that, a lot of my contemporaries could learn from that, and swallow your pride a little bit and recognize that these younger artists have, now Travis has been around for a long time. Cattle's been around for 20 years, but still that's a 10-year difference, and a lot happened in that 10 years. But you can really learn a lot. But I there are a lot of guys that I don't need to know nothing from any youngins and bullshit. You should never stop growing and learning. And I don't care. It doesn't harm my ego in any way. I think that, I just want to get better. I just want to make great music. And if I learned something from a young blood, and it made me a better singer and a better vocalist, then that's better for everybody, So.
I've spoken about this on the show many times, and I really believe, especially as I'm getting older, and I've been listening to this music now for, the best part of 30 plus years. And then what I've observed, especially with the older generation of musicians that I, got into and really influenced me in the 90s, the ones that have managed to remain relevant and the ones that have managed to kind of keep doing interesting stuff, keep consistently putting out great music, are the people that remain fans of the music. And to your point, they're fans of new music. They're not the people that when you have a conversation with them, they go, "Oh, there's nothing good that's come out since Altars of Madness. Everything after that is shit."
Come on. Yeah. That's, I feel like those people are really missing out on, there's so many great bands of today. Like, when people talk about technicality and Atheist, we really have, in many ways, we're very, some of today's bands are so technical, it's staggering. It's almost too much, in a way, but the level of, when you listen to a band like Animals as Leaders, they're way more technical than Atheist. But what's different about Atheist is it's not just a technicality. It's like this breathing organism, that also, we grew up with roots in Black Sabbath and Maiden and Priest and all that. So there's this middle generation that their musical history starts with death, and obituary, and their music their influences start there and then go forward. And that's fine, but you should really dig back, and go back to start with Black Sabbath, dip your, swim in the pool of Iron Maiden, swim in the pool of those old Judas Priest records and old Metallica. and and old Exodus. I mean, there's a lot of that great stuff. That sort of led into the middle generation, and then there's the modern generation. When I talk about Gojira to people, it's shocking to me that people are just discovering Gojira. That to me, they're one of the bands I feel like could actually hold the torch where Metallica and a Slayer did for a number of years. I believe Gojira has grown so much. One of my favorite bands. I just think they have such a groove, almost a sexy fucking groove. It's really hard to have any sexiness in metal. They somehow have a just a swagger, and I love that shit, man. It's not just they can go as fast as they want to go, but they're always quick to pull it back. And I believe that contrast is like so crucial and important, and they do it so well. And and there's many other bands that that I can name that are also moving towards that as well. And I just love new music. I love, there's a lot of garbage out there too. So, because there's a lot of people making records that aren't real. They're not able to go out on stage and perform those songs. And, I'll never subscribe to that, that shit, bands like, I hate to drop names, but this guy really had it coming, the guy from Rings of Saturn. No, I
know about that.
I mean, that guy's a fucking, I don't like that. I don't like guys like that have minimized the organic nature of being in a band. To say, well, we don't need a bass player. I can't subscribe to that philosophy of having a backing track playing. I like a band. I mean, guitar, vocals, bass, and drums. Call me old school, call me a traditionalist, but I don't like it when it's moving in that direction where there's a whole lot of. I understand that many of my I toured with Rob Zombie and Ozzy and and those guys had backing tracks, but they're not relying on them. I mean, they're not the bass player is standing there playing. They may have some keyboards in the background. There might be an underlying vocal harmony coming out, but Ozzy's fucking old. I mean, so. At the end of the day, there was a statement somebody made today that I thought was really important. That about thinking about yourself not just as a musician but as an entertainer. Yeah. And if you have a body of work that you've done and people are going to come and see it, you want it to be the best. You want to entertain them as best as possible, and you want the music to sound as close to to what people have been accustomed to from you as you can, without being like in the hip hop realm where these people are just. I often think when I watch hip hop artists perform, I just think, man, that would be fucking nice if I could just sing along with my albums.
Sing along with the tape. Yeah.
How fucking great would that be? Just crank that shit up, man. We can play in, 30,000 people and I just get to sing along with my record and it sounds perfect every night.
Well, you only shout along to every third or fourth line,
Right. Yeah. And you can just stop and let it play for a minute and hype the crowd and then jump back in whenever you feel like it. I mean, I can't even imagine because, there's a lot of pressure to play, especially as you get older, to perform songs that, that you wrote when you were 17, 18 years old. If you were a great football player when you're in high school and you tried to play football in your 50s, you're not going to be as great. I don't care how great you were back then. And so to really maintain that level of integrity as, it gets harder and harder every year. And especially a band like Atheist, where there's no room for resting. There is no room to rest in an Atheist song. It's just moving and shaking all the time. And it's literally like tightrope walking. And, if you can easily fall off. And if anybody in the band falls out at any point, it's really hard to jump back up on the rope, and so we work real hard. Fortunately the new guys in the band with me are just these young, talented monsters, and they have a lot of dedication to performing that shit exactly the way it was, or as close as they can possibly get it. And I have so much respect for them for that. For me now, not playing guitar on stage, a lot of people felt like I wasn't playing guitar at all anymore. I'm very excited about the Till the Dirt record because I am playing guitar on that whole record. And it'll kind of, because I've had to answer that question for a couple of decades now, like, how come you don't play guitar anymore? And I'm like, I do play guitar. I don't play on stage anymore. I still play every day. I just have to sit down and I didn't want to be that guy that was sitting in a chair, with a mic in front of me playing guitar. I don't need that for my ego. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I want it to sound as good as possible. And the best possible thing that I could do is have somebody come in and play my parts, and I would just handle the vocal parts. And that made more sense to me. And that was better for the, the sum of all parts. It just made it a better experience. And rather than, sitting down in a chair and, I don't know, like Robert Fripp,
Well, going back to your point about being an entertainer, you are an entertainer first and foremost. I'm very big on this. There's nothing entertaining for me about seeing somebody sit in the chair. No. There's also, like I've seen a lot of great bands whose music I absolutely love, and live they are abysmal, because it feels to me like it feels to me like I've been invited to watch a rehearsal, and I'm not interested in seeing that. I want crowd engagement. I want, like if I think about great frontmen, Phil Anselmo to me is a great frontman because he's yelling at the crowd, he's getting the crowd hyped up, and it doesn't matter whether he's in down, in minor, Pantera, whatever the case may be. He's doing that. If I think about newer bands, Randy Blythe, phenomenal frontman. That's the kind of vibe that I want when I'm on stage. I mean, you mentioned Slayer. Tom Araya to me is one of the only frontmen that can get away with smiling on stage and still being a fucking badass. But that's what I want to see. I don't want to see bands sitting down. I don't want to see bands, snickering about some inside joke between themselves. None of that shit.
Shoegazing.
None of that.
The guitar players that just stare at their shoes the whole time. And I think that was one of the things that when we came back, when we were reunited and came back, because of, like, as I mentioned before, my experience with Neurotica and having to go out on Ozfest and entertain, in 20 minutes, I've got to try to capture 20 to 30,000 people's attention. I'd never heard my band before. We were a brand new band, and we're playing with all these other great bands. We've got to find a way to be remembered. And I come from that old school, David Lee Roth. I love guys like that. I just felt like, as long as I can keep it from being silly, and keep it entertaining. I've always, I don't mind the rah aspect of pulling people in. And I think that people coming to a concert also they want to feel like, all right, this night that they're playing this music, he's talking to me, he's talking to us. And it's unlike any other night. Like, I don't have the same shtick every night. You know what I mean? I don't say the same things every night, but I think people were a little surprised thinking that we'd be out there in these white lab coats and be all nerdy and, because we were technical, and that's how kind of people, listening to the music just thought, oh, these guys must be like, Steely Dan, like this really serious, and we come out fucking, and they were like, holy shit, they're entertaining and pulling off these songs, and I think that more so on this last tour that we did, I felt like that was really hitting the way that I always hoped that it would. It was difficult for us in 2005 to do that because, we had a number of different guys in the band that weren't quite at the level of musicianship that would allow them to play the songs as close to note for note as possible. They were doing a good job and we were getting through it, but it wasn't really as good as it is now, and when you play, Atheist material, when it's played correctly in a live setting, it just means more. It has it's a heavier experience than when you're listening to the record. A song like, Mother Man, you can listen to it on the record and it's 30-year-old production. So it's heavy and everything, but with today's modern sounds and, modern guitar sounds and modern PA systems and, being able to pump it out over at festivals for, the tens of thousands of people, Mother Man becomes a whole different fucking experience, on stage now than it does on a record, or it even could back in the day, when we were trying to, we weren't playing with great, equipment and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different variables to it, but I'm all for. I want to feel like that band is going to give me a one-time unique experience. I've already, been accustomed to their music, whatever band I'm going to see. So now I want to feel like we're having a conversation, that we're interacting. And I always hated guys that, when they come out and play 3 or 4 songs and not even say a word.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man. And I always loved, how Rob Halford and Bruce Dickinson would scream for me, Long Beach. That makes it personal. Like, yeah, I'm in fucking Long Beach. That's my city. I mean, and it feels good to hear your musical heroes say your hometown. When you go see them in concert and talk to you, even though they're talking to the whole crowd, you feel like they're opening up to you. So I think that's a missing element in a lot of in a lot of underground metal. And
I agree.
The ones who don't do that are the ones who are good at being a front man, like Corpse Grinder. Corpse is he's a great front man. He's hilarious. And another great guy was Frank Mullen from Suffocation. Frank, he was just like, it was like Tony Soprano on stage. Like, hey, I gotta fucking tell you this fucking story about, this fucking guy. And then the next thing he said, and, if you're in England or I don't know, Ireland, anywhere, and you hear a guy like that talk, he's so authentically fucking, Jersey, New York vibe, the way he talks, and that's how he is, that's how he talks, but he has so much charisma. And I love that about, when a frontman is good. So there have been bands that are extreme. They were fortunate enough to have frontmen and those bands end up having more success than the other ones, in my opinion. So Cannibal Corpse, Suffocation, Randy from Lamb of God, and those bands end up doing, they're reaching people, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You froze.
You were talking about you were talking about Frank Mullen. I agree with you on him. Another guy who I know, but you kind of need to. It depends on the night that you get him on. But talking about unique experiences, I remember queuing up outside the Mean Fiddler once, and there was this dude walking past with a bottle of Jack in his hands, and I'm looking and I go, Jesus, I can recognize that. That's Glenn Benton. And it was Deicide playing that night, and that show they recorded for the When London Burns DVD, that was the night, and he was already seriously boozed up by the time he got on stage, but fucking hell was he good. And he was hysterically funny because, no inhibitions. He's like, he's introducing, he's introducing songs. Like I remember he introduced, I think it's Dead by Dawn. He's like, we wrote this song while your parents were having sex in the back streets of cars. And
That's awesome.
Oh man, but he's one of those guys where he can be a phenomenal front man, provided he's in the mood for it.
I love Phil Anselmo was another great one because I toured with Down on that Ozfest that we were on in 2002, and every day I would make sure to go out and watch their set because you just never knew what Phil was going to say on any given day, and he was just hilarious. He would stop the song like a minute and a half into the song. Wait a minute, fucking stop. Fucking what? Like what? You can see the band like, really, dude? Like we're a minute and a half into this goddamn song and you stop. Now we got to start it all over again. And I want to see everybody fucking go. And he just has that mug, that look on his face, where it's just, he's just so authentically metal. And, but it's funny, the first time I met him with Big Val, which was their security guy back in the days, made famous on the Pantera home video. And he was Ozzy's stage guy, the head guy on that year of Ozfest. And he's like, I'm going to take you over to meet Philip. And I was like, Philip? I didn't know who he was talking about. So then we go over and Phil, I just can't help but call him. I can't call him Philip. I don't know. He's always been Phil Anselmo. Yeah. And so when I met him, he was like, Philip. And I was like, Kelly, nice to meet you. And he called himself Philip. So I was like, all right, fuck, I got to call him Philip, but I just, he doesn't seem like a Philip, but yeah, what an entertaining guy, just a great front man. And, one of the best, and in our generations,
100%. I heard the loudest crowd pop possibly of my entire life when I saw Down play. They had done, I think they did Stone the Crow, and then they sort of had the bass lingering, the lights go down, and then you hear the opening bass line to Dazed and Confused. And, you could hear that crowd was like, oh my God, it's coming. And then Phil took the microphone and it's, the stage lighting had gone really dark. It was just like one light on him. And he belts out that opening line, I'm being dazed and confused. That crowd went fucking ballistic.
Oh, bad.
That was one of the loudest pops I have ever heard at a show.
Man, just nothing like the magic of a live performance is just, it just gives me goosebumps, man. I love it.
I was going to ask you, we kind of talking about the scene and things like that, and we touched on this when we spoke the first time, but as atheists, you guys were kind of outsiders in an outsider genre.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was it like kind of trying to get people to recognize, what you guys were doing as legitimate, getting shows, how, I remember you kind of, again, touched on this, audiences just not getting you, depending on who you were opening for. But what was that like?
It was just difficult because we really believed in our music a lot, but it was if you had never heard Atheist and you were just seeing us for the first time in a live setting, I can understand it. At the time, I was young and fiery and full of piss and vinegar. It made me mad that people didn't get it. But I understand it being older now. I can't imagine how confused people must have been when we're playing with Candlemass. If you're a Candlemass fan, I love Candlemass, and I love that slow, dirgy, Sabbathy kind of shit. And if you're a fan of that and not and at the time there wasn't even technical metal, so along comes this band that's playing like, we never played the same riff for longer than 10 or 15 seconds. And, in a live setting, if you're not familiar with any of that music, and on top of it being live and not having opening band sound issues, I would imagine a lot of people are like, this band sucks, they're just, this is just noisy and I can't mosh to this. And I can't do anything to this. And people just didn't get it, and I understand it much more now than I did then, but it was fucking really frustrating to the point where, Steve Flynn said, fuck, man, I'm just going to go to college, dude. I'm out, before we did the third album. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe you're quitting the band. I was so disappointed in him. But, as you get older, you start to understand he was right. He was just like, I got to figure something else out. People just this isn't working, and we kind of wrapped up that way. I mean, we had a handful of writers and, and a small group of fans that did understand it early on. But for the most part, there was no one for us to tour with. There was even remotely like-minded. Not that you want to have a band that's just like you on tour, but you want to have you want to be in the same tree at least, we were in a different forest. Not only were we not in the same tree, but we were in a different forest. So it was not a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of times very frustrating, very few in between moments of happiness. Like we played in Montreal back in the day with Cannibal Corpse. That was one of the best crowds we'd ever played with. They completely, Canadians just got us. And I remember we played Mother Man, and it came to the Birds in the end, and the whole crowd was like, and I was like, fuck. I'll never forget it. That was 30 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was one of my favorite moments ever on stage because, that just never happened. And you always hope that someone will sing along with your songs but you never expect them to, do, and it's like, oh man, it was just so cool. And so, but that was one of that. And Minneapolis was another place that also where people whistled the Birds. So it was these odd, like I said, few and far in between, but it gave us a small taste of what we experience now when we play. It's just entirely different now. Watching people, they found a way to respond to our craziness, and our craziness isn't so crazy anymore, So, I think that's why when we came back in 2006 and we played Wacken, we really thought that it was just going to be a bunch of old guys there. And what really enabled us to be able to come back was that younger generation. They did fucking understand it. They did get it. And they did have an open mind to the different time changes and the intricacy of it. And they didn't want that, knuckle dragging shit all the time. Not to be disrespectful, but I mean, that's kind of what back in the day, people wanted it real straight down the middle. Just either give me chung, 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 or give me, crazy fast, and don't give me any other shit in between, or it's confusing me. And but yeah, it was, we had a lot of respect from other musicians, so that was nice. But again, that's, you can't put a lot of people in the seats or in a club of just musicians. But that's ended up kind of when we did our own shows. That's who they were the best part of the crowd, and it's still kind of that way a little bit. there's a lot of musicians that come to our shows, and I can always tell who they are. We played 70,000 tons of metal recently, and we played at like 3 a.m, our first show. It was like really, really late. And I look out in the crowd, and it's all the drummers from all, there's a lot of bands on that too. It's a lot of drummers and a lot of bass players standing right there, right up front. Whereas normally they, as musicians, we typically don't hang out right in the front. We stand in the back with our arms folded,
Impress me.
And,
yeah.
But they were like, I remember looking out and seeing them all, and just, it made me happy. It's nice to be, appreciated by your peers. It's a good feeling. And, but it's safe to say that, thankfully, the world caught up, and so I feel like now is the greatest, the greatest time for a band like us. And now it's fucking COVID, so we can't play. It's like, it's fucking bullshit, man.
The grim irony. When did you start to feel that turn happening, where you kind of got, hey, actually, after 10 years or 15 years or whatever, people are starting to really get what we're about, and they're starting to get into what we're doing?
Well, when I was out on that 2002 tour, Hatebreed was also on that tour. And Jamie Josta said, "Oh man," he's like, "I didn't know you played in Atheist. I fucking love Atheist, man." I was like, "Really?" And at that point, I had covered up my tattoo. I had my Atheist tattoo, and I just thought it was over. That nobody was ever. So I covered it and moved on, and I really didn't think anybody remembered the band. And so it was on that. And then the bass player for the band, Otep, was another guy that was like, "I fucking love Atheist. I can't believe you were an Atheist." And so because Neurotica was so different than Atheist, people didn't put it two and two together, but the people that did were like, "Whoa, holy shit," and so then I kind of, when I went to go, I didn't have any copies of the record, so when I went to go buy it, I realized that people were paying like crazy amounts of money on eBay for it, and so that led to me kind of investigating. Like, oh, people remember this, they remember Atheist, so I wonder if we could, put these records back out, whether it would matter, and it did, man. It really, that was, so I guess probably not till 17 years later, like we broke up in 93, and in 2006 coming back. So it wasn't until then that, and the internet really kind of made it real for me, where I could see, but I was just shocked that it was all young people. It was 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And I was like, I wouldn't have expected that. I wouldn't even know, the music is older than they are. So, but, it's a testament to them going back, using the internet, using YouTube to investigate. Hey, wait a minute, where did these, they wanted to know where today's, at that time, the bands that were technical, where did that come from? And it was really only other bands that would tell people, yeah, well, Atheist did that shit before anybody, and that was a super lonely street corner back in the day. But once they found bands like Between the Buried and Me, and bands that were technical, they're like, oh, I wonder where that came from. What were they influenced by? Unfortunately, a lot of those bands were kind enough to say, hey, fucking Atheist, and then they would go back and be, back in the 90s, you weren't able to get on the internet and go and research it and find it. So putting the records back out again and then going and playing that first round of shows in Europe is what kind of made me and Steve Flynn just giddy about it, because we were just like so excited that was it's like having a kid that got bullied his whole life, finally get the muscles and get the girl, you know what I mean, and win the game, you know what I mean. That's how it felt. It felt like we always believed in our music, but it was just heartbreaking that people would literally throw shit at us on stage. Like, I'll never forget. I always bring that up in interviews just because I don't think people understand how humiliating it is to have someone throw dog food at you.
Yeah.
While you're playing on stage. Like, first of all, who brings dog food to a fucking concert? And how did I play music that sucked so bad that they opened that can of dog food, put it in their hand, and threw it at me? Fucking like, and it splattered against my guitar. I was just like, I'll never forget it. I had dogs my whole life, so I know it was dog food because I could smell the Alpo. It was like Alpo dog food, and I just always thought that was just like. And when we were on that Ozfest tour, I always marvel at people that throw their shoes Like how mad do you have to be at a band? How shitty do you have to be to take your damn shoe off
Yeah,
at a festival, knowing that you're not going to get that shoe back, and you're going to
yeah.
walk around all fucking day with one shoe because that fucking band sucks so bad.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, God damn, were we really that bad? So it just felt good to come back and realize, okay, it was just people. They didn't understand, and people don't like what they don't understand. So that's where we were. But it was a really good feeling, and it's just a super. It's better to better late than never, as they say, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you guys also came back with a fucking ripping album in Jupiter. I remember
Thank you.
Jupiter was like a record that I listened to a couple of times, but I remember exactly where I was when it clicked for me. I was flying to South Africa, and I remember listening to it on the plane, and we were just about to take off, and I was like, okay, what am I going to listen to? I thought, let me give this a try again. So I'm listening to it, and I remember as we're taking off, I'm listening to Second to Sun, and it just like everything on the record kind of sort of snapped into focus for me.
Nice.
And I just loved it. It was one of those albums as well. I find that you kind of have to listen through from start to finish, for everything to make sense. But everything from the riffs, I love the way you did your vocals. Your vocals sounded a lot more crazy and kind of unhinged. And also, just as a sidebar, it was interesting when reading your comment about Mike Patton being one of your main vocal influences, because as soon as I read that, I was like, Jesus, I can see it. I can see, it to a degree on Till the Dirt. I definitely see it on Jupiter. But it's a phenomenal record that. And I was going to ask you as well, where are you guys up to with new music for Atheist? When do you think new music will come out? Because you guys have signed a deal with Agonia, right?
Oh, I can't really comment on it. I wish I could, because I wish I could tell you. I'll tell you off air, the deal. But I will never make a record for Agonia Records. I'll never. I will break Atheist up before I allow these.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether we can say that. I'm sure my manager will be super mad at me. But we've been caught for 3 years in an agreement with Agonia Records, and they breached contract. They didn't do what they said they were going to do. We have to write together in a room. That's how Atheist works. We don't work through the mail. We don't send files back and forth. We sit in a room, we smoke pot, and we fucking write. Hey, that's how Atheist music is made. And in order to do that, it costs a lot of money. Not a lot of money, but it costs money. And we need, part of our recording budget has to be paid up front. And that didn't happen. And it was supposed to happen. And as a result of that, we said, this isn't going to work out. And we've been caught up for, they're in Poland. So, to litigate is expensive. We're really kind of caught in this limbo. And, I really want to say a lot of things about it. I'm very, I don't have a lot of years left, on this planet. You know what I mean? Maybe 15 years if I'm lucky, so time is ticking. And I feel like this guy is, that label is literally standing in the way of Atheist progress. And that's probably more than I'm allowed to say, but fuck it at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, that's the reason why there isn't a new Atheist record. So initially it all looked great on paper. It was all supposed to be really, really great. They made a fantastic offer, and it was all signed, sealed, and delivered and ready to go. And when it came time to put up the money, they wanted us to have rehearsal schedules, and it's like, you don't need my fucking, you don't need, but we do what we do. Like when we signed with Season of Mist and we did Jupiter, Michael, the head of Season of Mist, didn't ask us, well, I need to see when you guys are rehearsing and I need to hear demos. He didn't hear a fucking sound from us. He wrote a big check for the record, and he didn't hear any music until it was done. Mm-hmm. And he was a fan of our band, and he believed in us. He knew that, hey, I'll spend the money. I'll give you the money. I know you're going to do the right thing because you're Atheist. You're going to make a good record. You're not going to make a turd. And so I tip my hat to him for that, and for having that courage to write the check and say, oh, all right, I'll see you in a year or so. I hope it sounds good. And, and he was blown away when he got Jupiter. He was like, holy shit, that's his words, and so, that's what we wanted out of Agonia. Like, you got to trust us. You know what I mean? I'm pretty certain that once you get to a certain level in your career, you got to you got to trust the artist, you know. I mean, if it's a new band, I get it. If it's a brand new band of young kids, yeah, you're going to want to hear the demos. You're going to want to hear the progress, you know, the steps, so to speak. And I just felt like, you know, for them to come at us like that. First of all, Agonia to me was not a household name by any means in terms of labels. And for us to move away from Season of Mist and move into a new label was a big, you know, scary venture. It was like, okay, well, all right, this is new and different, you know, and they're really trying to make a name for themselves, and I can respect that. And let's dive in, you know. And but we had made that mistake before back in the day. Like Roadrunner wanted to sign Atheist back in the day, and we decided, well, we don't want to go with Roadrunner because they've got all these other bands that we're going to have to compete with. Let's go with, you know, Bernard Doe and Dave Constable were these two guys that worked at Metal Forces, which was a very popular magazine back in the day, and one of the mainstays of metal press before the internet. And they decided to start a label, and we were like, yeah, we want to be on that fucking label. And so that was that was not a good decision on our part, because that ended up being, you know, that's why our record didn't come out in America for a full year. So, you know, Piece of Time was done for a long time before it ever saw the light of day in the US. And it just became difficult to, you know, they didn't have, you know, the infrastructure that Roadrunner had or the influence. And so, you know, but I mentioned that to Monty Connor on a regular, you know, over the years, you know, wish like hell we would have, you know, that we would have signed with them, because it probably would have been better. But those old school Roadrunner deals are pretty scary.
Yeah.
You know, those bands don't own their music. We own we own all of our records, you know, all the publishing and all that. So that's really important. So in hindsight, I'm glad it worked out the way it did. And, you know, it's not a slight to Dave Conn. It's not as Active Records was like this, you know, those, you know, sort of an unknown label, but, you know, they put up the money and they, you know, they tried to do the right thing. They just didn't know it, you know, really know what they were doing, I guess. And Roadrunner was just in full 100 miles an hour. They were killing it, you know. And so back then, at the time, it would have been better for us. We probably would have been a more popular band, and had more opportunities. But like I said, in hindsight, I'm glad that it worked out the way it did, because it allowed us to own our music and yeah. So it's a good place to be in our 50s now, to own our catalog and be able to. Which is something I need to say. I want to use this platform to explain to people. Our music is down from Spotify right now. Yeah. So if you try to stream Atheist music right now, you're going to find that it's not available, because we are moving our entire catalog to a new label, and we're super excited about it. It's going to be big news and a really exciting new sort of possibility. A lot of Atheist music isn't on jukeboxes and isn't a mainstay in streaming. You know, we've never really had that digital presence. So in the course of licensing our catalog to a new label, that's going to make Atheist much more readily available all over the world, in all the corners and you know, all the little cracks of the world. So while it's down for a minute, I urge people to be patient and just hang out. It won't be too long. We'll have it back up, bigger and better than ever, and more easy to find. And you know, we've you know, there's been a lot of reissues and things like, not a lot, but I mean, the reissues have been done by Season of Mist. But we have we have some really exciting new things that we want to do with the Atheist catalog, and so we're looking forward to that. So sorry about the delay, but it won't be long, you know. But
would you ever consider doing a, you know, you were talking earlier about, you know, when you play Motherman live now, it's, you know, sounds so much heavier and more impactful. Would you consider doing a record like Testament did with First Strike Still Deadly, where you re-record some of that older stuff, you know, and give it new production?
I've been saying that for years and years, and every time I say it to somebody, they act like I smacked their child in the face. You know, how dare you? Like, you know, because I immediately I thought, God damn, I wish we could record Unquestionable Presence with today's technology. Holy fuck, you know, I mean, it would sound so much better. But I mean, look at Jupiter. One of the main things that happened in the beginning of Jupiter, it's only just now sort of dissipating, is people were like, oh, the fucking modern production, and it fucking doesn't sound like, you know. No, it doesn't sound like 1991, you fucking idiot. You know, it's not, I don't want it to, you know, I mean, who wants to, I don't want to go back to a basement I know it's those, not to listen, I love the era of the 90s, and I get it. I get why people are like, oh, well, they want to have that feeling of 90s productions, but why, the modern sound of Jupiter, I don't know, just I thought the production on it was tremendous, and we were so excited about it, but it ended up being one of the things that people snub their nose at. Or like, the modern production, I prefer the old stuff. But now that it's been out for 10 years, people are going back and visiting, going, oh, it's kind of been this record that people, because purists were like, well, we're really just, I think John McEntee from Incantation, he was on a podcast recently, and he was going through it was about Atheist and all the record. What's your favorite Atheist music? And I just was really flattered that he was doing it to begin with. I didn't know him personally at the time, but now we're friends now. And, he was so articulate about the way, what those records meant to him, what Unquestionable Presence meant to him. Like Don from Agalock, super smart guy, like just a really, really brilliant guy, was, just really into those old records. It was hard for him to hear Jupiter and to hear us in a modern light. And, that's frustrating. But now that people have kind of gone back, like you said, it took you a minute to kind of get into Jupiter, but it's, our music has always been that way. It took whatever, 15 years for people to go, Unquestionable Presence. Yeah, it's fucking brilliant. I get it now. That's fucking frustrating. It's like telling a joke and waiting 15 years for people to fucking laugh. It's like, come on, man. That shit was funny. But these days, I'm getting more and more mail every day from people who are like, holy shit, man, I just listened to Jupiter and holy shit, and I'm like, all right, better late than never, thank you. There is some good shit on there. There's some, Unquestionable Presence is the only Atheist record that I feel top to bottom there's no moments on there that I wish weren't there. On Piece of Time, there's some really immature moments lyrically. On They Slay lyrically is something I wrote when I was 16 years old. I was trying to be cool and death metal, I was trying to, so they're stupid, and there's a song called Life, which was called Choosing Death on the demos. Just really stupid, immature death metal lyrics, so I feel like, lyrically on Jupiter, there was a lot of really good stuff, man. I was really proud of the lyrics, and I wrote all those lyrics in 10 days. And so when I say I'm influenced, like when I was, Mike Patton is a big influence on me. I was already sort of singing the way I sing before I heard Faith No More or heard Mike Patton.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that he now my voice does, I do hear the similarities, the sort of the nasally whiny tone that I have, in my singing voice. But I'll take it. I don't mind sounding like him. I don't mind, also, Lane Staley, people compare it to Lane Staley a lot. And I always go on to tell them like, I was already singing that way, but Dirt came out and fucking, that was such an incredible record. And I was like, oh, so when I heard Dirt, I was like, oh my God, that's so good. It was so beautiful, man. Those harmonies and those two just locked in. That's such a great record. But back to my point that Jupiter has a couple of moments that I wish I could go back and fix. And so that I wish I could do again. Just with so I want to make sure that the next Atheist record that we do, there won't be any. It's gonna be to the moon. With all the things that people really loved about Atheist, including myself, which is the bass. One of the biggest reasons why we sounded so weird is because it was orchestrated, and as opposed to everybody playing the same thing and moving in the same direction all the time, we inadvertently had to orchestrate because we couldn't play a lot of Roger's riffs. His riffs were so weird on the bass. He's playing with his fingers, and so when you try to translate that with a pick, it doesn't sound the same. And so he was grabbing these notes in the middle of an already complicated phrase. He would reach in and throw in this random note somewhere that was really, really frustrating for us to try to emulate with a pick. So I, as the guy that was, one of my biggest assets in Atheist is not my technical ability or my mechanical ability. Like the other guys in the band have always been better players than me, but I'm always the guy that sews it together, makes the the quilt, the direction that it goes. So I was just like, if you're going to play that, Roger, then I'm going to play this. And so that's where, I deny, where you've got this bass line in the beginning that had these, you can't really do that with a pick the same way. So I was like, I just took these notes and kind of built it around it. And then that became a template. And then it just ended up always being the template. Well, when we did Jupiter, I knew before we did Jupiter, my impression was Tony Choi was going to be doing that record. So I felt like we were going to have those bass moments. We were going to have that ability to do that. But then when Tony bowed out to tour with Pestilence again, it was frustrating, man, but I even though we knew we had Tony, I wanted it to be a little heavier guitar driven record. I didn't want it to be, because, the bass is really loud on Elements. I mean, it's really loud. I mean, there's a lot of chunky guitar stuff, but it was a digital record, and the guitars are a bit overmodulated. The guy who did it, his name is Mark Pinsky, and he had worked with Zappa, and he was a brilliant engineer, but he had never done a death metal record or an extreme metal record, and so he kind of overdid it digitally on the guitars, and so the bass is just so loud. So in my mind, I was like, well, I really want to have a chunkier guitar sound on this record. And then we ended up having, Jonathan Thompson play bass on it, and he did a great job. It's just that I didn't want the bass to be that loud in the mix. And then the songs we ended up writing were very guitar driven and vocal driven. Wanted to be a little catchier as well. I feel like Live and Live Again, which is one of the songs in Jupiter, was a moment that, where you got this really strong chorus, which wasn't happening a lot in extreme metal. And still doesn't really, there's not a lot of hooks. And so with Till the Dirt, I feel like I've got everything in there. There's brutal moments. There's chuggy moments. There's, the bass is not a big deal on Till the Dirt. I mean, I should say that. I didn't mean that, Yoav. I love you, buddy. You did a great job. But, it wasn't written around showcasing the bass. It's really, actually, Till the Dirt was written very without any thought. I've explained to you, I think, on the last podcast that, it wasn't my intention to come up with a new band or write a bunch of these songs. It just happened spontaneously, and I just let it flow as it went. And I wrote like 20 plus songs in that vein of, in that 3-month period of first being locked down from COVID. And it was, but before I did that, I did write a bunch of stuff for a new Atheist album. So I have literally 3 hours of riffs, and I'm going to start in again now. I've got those riffs and they're all recorded, and something I've never had before, to be able to take into writing, because a lot of, like I said, when we do write Atheist music, it's very spontaneously combusting in a room together, like old school, the way, the bands used to write. And, I've always felt like, I think that's a great equation for a lot of older bands. I would love to see Metallica do that. I think we might have had this conversation where I feel like the only way we ever get a great Metallica record again is if those guys rent a house and live together and get rid of Bob Rock, get him the fuck out of there, and get in a house and just, live with each other. Leave your kids at home, leave your wives at home, fight, argue, no therapist. No.
I was just about to say, get rid of the therapist.
Get rid of that fucking stupid therapist guy. God damn it! That was a painful movie to watch. Yeah, I mean, I was watching it again recently, and it fucking bothers me. That guy, just the whole thing, and I just think that guy sitting there watching that guy nod his head to shit Metallica music, like music that just was not, and I'm sure James knows it. I mean, like that whole album to me is just. I can't help but think of that guy sitting there going, "Oh, that's fantastic!" Shut up. And then Rick, or whatever, Bob Rock, like, ugh. He was just, "Oh, I'm gonna play bass." Go away, dude. Like, you fucked up one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I watched that movie. I was like, ugh. And
dude, that was one of the most distressing things I've ever seen in my entire life, because it was like, when I was growing up, I had a couple of folks that, were real heroes of mine. James was one of them, Phil Anselmo being the other. But seeing James as he is presented on some kind of monster, I was like,
Oh,
I was shell shocked after I saw it. And then to your point, seeing all these fucking grifters circling the band, literally just leeches stealing their money and doing nothing positive for that band. It was horrible
$40,000 a
to see.
month.
Yeah.
40,000 a month they were paying that asshole. And then when they finally came to, and I remember the scene where James and Lars are like, yeah, I don't think we need the therapist guy anymore. And then they go to tell him, and he's like, well, I think you need me to. That pissed me off. I wanted to jump through the television and be like, no, get the fuck out now, dude. You shouldn't be any. You're what messed this all. You did not help anything with your bullshit. Oh, here's who you go. Maybe you're feeling this way. And it was just really painful to watch. But I think that I would love to see Anthrax go and fucking go, because that's what creates great music, is that tension. But living in a room, to not having a bunch of I guess it's really difficult, because I mean, these guys have so many years in between records, and when their management does call and say, okay, it's been 7 years, all right, Metallica, let's get together. And then they get together in a room, and they're all fucking just millionaires. They all been living, I've been out on my yacht. I've been driving my fast cars. I've been, and all of a sudden you got to really come back in, and, there's no fancy way to write a great record. It's painful, and you got to fight, and you got to argue, and you got to sweat, and you got to hate it for a minute. You got to question it for a minute. There's all these different variables of feelings that are required to make a good piece, a good record. And that's, I think, why a lot of bands lose it from their first record to their fifth, because it just becomes too comfortable for them. And everything is and then there's other people's opinions that never mattered in the beginning. It was always just, a band starts as a group of guys that are like-minded and want to make music. And, and half of that, every time you watch a documentary about a band, by the way, I just watched the Leonard Skinner. There's a new documentary out. I forget what the hell it's called, but it's on Netflix now, and I highly recommend people to watch it. And you watch Leonard Skinner in the early days of their writing and the music they were writing. And as time went on and more people became involved, more money became involved, it was more difficult for them to get to that point. So they used to write all their music in this little hot ass cabin in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
And it was just miserably hot, but they wanted to be there all the time. That's the only place they wanted to be. That's how Atheist was. We had a warehouse in Florida, almost South Florida, 100% humidity, 95 degrees, no air conditioning, just dying of sweat. And we had a lot of people that used to come out from our, local friends would come and sit in our warehouse while we were working on music. And we fought like people thought we were going to break up every day. Like, I mean, we would just, we would fight and call each other names. And then Steve would click the sticks and we would play fucking Brains or Unquestionable Presence. And people would be like, holy shit, and our local friends, they followed us, since we were, first getting together until, we got into, the second record, and they were always very supportive, but they on a nightly basis felt like we were going to break up any minute. And it was just the process. That's what was required for us to get to that level. And I was just, that it's like working out. You don't get muscles from sitting around talking about muscles.
Yeah.
You got to fucking put in the work, and that work's not pretty. It's not fun. It's not, there's just only one way to really do shit. And if you want to get muscles, then you work out and you sweat and you smell stinky locker room gyms and you're whatever it is, you got to get into that. So I believe that's a really important thing, and kind of getting back to your roots. So I think when Robert Trujillo came into Metallica, I think he probably tried really hard to pull them back, because he was a fan, and I spent some time with him on Ozfest when he played with Ozzy. And I would see him when we would go eat lunch in the afternoon. At the venue, I would walk into the venue, and it was like a school lunch. If you remember going to school and eating lunch in a lunchroom, and all the kids are in there, I would walk in, and it would be Phil, Jimmy Bauer, Robert Trujillo, fucking Serge from, or I think it's his name, from System of a Down, and Darren, all these, all the who's who of metal guys are all sitting at what looks like a school lunchroom.
Yeah.
And it was every day it was like that. So I look forward, and you're waiting in line, scooping up food with Rob Zombie and all the the guys that were in the band, and it was just so fucking much fun. It was just a good time. But anyway, I was able to sit on a couple of occasions and talk to Robert, and he was a fan of Metallica. It was really exciting to see him get that gig because he's a great guy. But I would imagine he was he probably treaded lightly, because obviously Jason Newsted also tried to he tried to interject some thoughts, and it ended up getting him bullied by those guys, which I feel like it's a shame that they did that. But it's really funny that to hear them talk about it now, it really had a lot to do with him playing with a pick. It was really as simple as that. It was, look, Cliff Burton was a fucking monster bass player. Like, I would never have a guy play with a pick in Atheist ever. Like, if you don't play with your fingers, you don't play bass in Atheist. Yeah. Sorry. And that's just a deal breaker. And I feel like that was a thing that if one thing is improved from that era of Bob Rock coming in, was Robert, and his bass playing is just, he's a monster. He's a killer.
I will give a contrarian opinion on that, just purely from an entertainment perspective. I think live they lost something when Jason left the band. There was something. I'm a big fan of of looming chaos in a live show, and one of the things that I loved about Metallica when Jason was in there, I loved Jason coming in, doing Whiplash or doing parts of Seek and Destroy. I thought he was super energetic on stage. I like that vibe where it's like, okay, anything can happen. Jason might jump in and he might do a verse of a particular song or whatever the case may be. I saw them about 3 years ago, and I was so fucking bored. I can't begin to. Both me and my friend, lifelong Metallica fans. I was watching it. I was like, this is one of the most boring fucking things I've ever seen in my entire life.
One of the things I don't like about modern Metallica is with Robert in the band, is this little thing that him and Kirk do where they butcher cover songs like in between. I don't know what that is, but I just know that Robert's capable of probably doing a lot more than at this point Metallica will let them do. Because I'd be willing to bet that he wouldn't mind doing some backup vocals here and there. And I don't know. It's just nice to hear the bass lines played closer to Cliff's stuff. For me, that it matters a lot. But it's like a give and take, I guess. But listen, not to take anything from Jason, he was a great performer and a really nice guy. And I had the privilege to meet him later. I in 2003, I think it was, I auditioned to be Tommy. There was a show on American television called
Supergroup, I think.
Yeah, it was Tommy Lee, Jason Newsted. So I auditioned and got the call back and went out to LA and it was kind of like American Idol in a way, and it was really weird. And so they were sitting at this this table, and all the other performers were doing like cover songs, and I was doing Neurotica songs, and so that was kind of what some thought would be a disadvantage. Jason Newsted was like really stoked about it. Like, he was like, man, what song is that? It's a really cool song. And it's like, it was my band Neurotica, this and that. And he was like, it took a lot of balls to come and do that. He was like, so I went home. I stayed with my friend in LA that night, and the guy that auditioned before me was Jeff Scott Soto. Who's a killer fucking singer, man. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, there's no way I'm getting a call back. I couldn't believe he was the guy that literally went before me. And when they were asking him questions, and he was just rolling credits. He's like, yeah, it was my voice in the movie with Mark Wahlberg, and I was like, how the fuck? There's no way I'm getting a call back. And I got the call back, and I went back to the callback the next day, and he didn't get the call back. And I was like, holy shit, I couldn't believe that. But thankfully, I didn't get that. I didn't get that gig. I got down to the final 65 people.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, looking back on that, I'm glad, because that would have prevented the reformation of Atheist, because it was happening at the same time that we were getting ready to reissue the records and play Vakken and all that. I was going to have to tell Atheist fans, oh, never mind, I'm going to go with Tommy Lee and go on television and try to be the singer of this fucking stupid band that it ended up being, just really kind of a joke thing. So in hindsight, the universe helped me out on that one, kept me away from that shit.
One comment about Metallica, and this is more on recent Metallica news. It might sound a bit harsh when I say this, but I find this Blacklist record that they've just released now, I find it offensive. And the reason why is, they are rich. They've earned their success. They can do whatever they want. But you would hope that a band who, has, kind of been the ambassadors and, I think probably quite proudly, would think of themselves in, certain quiet circles as the, as this kind of elder statesman of heavy metal. You would think that they would maybe give a little shine to a couple of new bands or a couple of bands that, folks would want to hear. But to have Sam Fender, Biffy Clyro, Tommy Owo, Phoebe Bridges, Miley Cyrus. I mean, come on.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. You're right. You're right on that. And they could have reached down and pulled up, do a series of covers with bands that people should know about. You know what I mean? That's the spirit of the underground. That's the spirit of the way it was back then. And they should know that. But they've gotten so far from it. You like to think that James and Lars would still keep some kind of semblance of understanding of the underground and how it is. And there's still very much an underground. There's a lot of bands that deserve that attention. You could spotlight and change the lives of a lot of young bands, a lot of not even just young bands, but bands that that never got their level of notoriety or attention. And you're 100% correct on that. I haven't really thought about it, but my disdain was they're kind of going to Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus. What do you? I mean, it's nothing against them. I like that Miley Cyrus is a tremendous vocalist, and she doesn't sing it horribly at all. She's got a good voice and everything, but that's not metal. That's not where we come from. That's not how you got to where you are. So you clearly forgot how you back in the day when Hit the Lights was on Metal Massacre, and Brian Slagle reached down to pull you the fuck up. And put you on that compilation, which led to the Zazulas coming in and say, oh, we're going to do this record. That's what you could have done for, I don't know, maybe not an Atheist or anybody, but somebody else, like coming up, Gojira, they brought Gojira on the road. And that's another thing too. Why do you have fucking Greta Van Fleet on your goddamn tour? Shame on you. Greta Van Fleet does not need any help from you, first of all. Second of all, they have zero to do with where we all come from, where you come from, Metallica. And don't forget where you come from. Bob Rock tried to make you forget where you came from. But there was a time where, Bon Jovi was the antichrist of everything that Metallica stood for. Well, now you're in with Bob Rock, who is the guy responsible for it. How could you do that? So. Well,
but, again, a theory I've held over the years, and I'm a very, very big fan of Testament. So when I take special offense to the fact that Metallica have never taken Testament out on tour, again, wouldn't have included them on something like this. But part of me feels like they wouldn't do it because they're scared of being shown up. Testament, if I compare a Testament show right now to a Metallica show right now, Testament would mop the floor with them.
Gene Hoglan, Steve DiGiorgio, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Lars would cry nightly, and if he had to follow Gene Hoglan. I don't care how fancy your shit is, man. At the end of the day, Lars is just, I get it. He's getting, people say all the time, well, they're getting old. Listen, you don't think Gene Hoglan's real close in age? We're all old too. Steve Flynn is fucking 54 years old. Come sit behind the kid and watch Steve Flynn play fucking drums sometime and tell me, that it has something to do with age. Like Lars he just sucks. He's never been a great drummer. He's just, I shouldn't say sucks, but but he's painful to listen to. And on Sirius Radio right now, they have this mandatory Metallica thing happening over the last week. And there's a lot of live stuff they're playing. Oh my God. I don't even know I feel terrible for James trying to play, like, even For Whom the Bell Tolls, it's literally like, the meter is crazy. And one of the funniest things I heard this week was they played Battery, and they get to the end of the song, and Lars just fucks it all up. And he's like, oh, yeah, all right, something like that. He goes, you think we'll get it right one of these days. We've only been a band 36 years. And I know, I could just tell that that was his way of saying, fuck you, Lars, you jerk. He wasn't really saying it to the crowd. He was saying it to Lars, like, really, dude, after 36 years, you can't figure out how to end this goddamn song.
But Lars has always
it wasn't Battery. It was Whiplash. It wasn't Battery. It was Whiplash.
Lars has always been an extraordinarily unimaginative drummer to me. Like, if I think about Lombardo, I think of Voglin or somebody like that, there's always something going on, crazy, cool fills. I don't expect you to be, in fucking drum solo mode 24/7. But just do something a little different. There's so many Metallica songs where literally this is the drum beat. Nothing else. And then they ask him, who are your favorite drummers? And he'll mention Phil from AC/DC. And it's like, okay, now I get it. But, you can't AC/DC and Metallica. It's apples and oranges. I love AC/DC. I like Metallica, but don't use Phil's drum style as an excuse for you being fucking lazy.
Yeah, no, listen, play Let There Be Rock for 8 minutes. Like, people talk shit about, how basic those drums are. But I challenge any amazing drummer, anybody who's with any talent to play that concrete, that solid, like a metronome. Like there's a I didn't used to have respect for that when I was younger. I used to think, fucking AC/DC, that fucking boring ass same beat over and over again. Until I started playing music that was a little less complicated, and I realized, God damn, it's really hard to play to a metronome, play and can stay solid, much less 8 minute long Let There Be Rock, which is just each song and with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth sometimes, and just I just have this whole new appreciation for how hard that is to do. But one of the things that irks me about Lars as well is his constant need to hi-hat count everything off.
Yeah.
Like, there's no feel for him at all. Everything's got to be it's like, come on, dude, can't you feel? There's moments, like, especially like For Whom the Bell Tolls, where there's that break he can never play it right, and I don't even know how they all land on the one. Constant will deep inside. Everybody lands on a different note, and it's Lars's fucking fault, he can't feel anything, so it must be frustrating to be James, who's a really tight player, who's one of the best, one of the best right hands in the business, man. And I tip my hat to James as a player. He's still badass, man. He's still a great player. He's just not hungry anymore. He doesn't write the same kinds of riffs that he used to. But God, what a riff king, man.
They sounded their absolute best, in my view, on that All Within My Hands unplugged thing that they released. And I was telling my friend, like, I was listening to Bleeding Me on there, and I was like, this is the best Metallica has sounded for 20 years. This is the kind of music they should be making. And I get it. If you're worth $250 million, what do you have to be pissed off about? I mean, you can watch the news and go, I don't like this, or I don't like that. But what do you have to be authentically angry about? Like, really, getting the venom building up in your guts. Nothing. Yeah. Because if you're pissed off, you just throw a bit of money at it and the problem goes away. It's like, another band from that era, I've spoken to people about this before, Guns N' Roses. They're never going to make a great album ever again, because unless you can stick those guys into a room and bring in truckloads of heroin and get Easy in the band, take all the money away, it's going to be a fucking disaster.
That's how you make a good record with all those bands. Metallica too. Take the money away. Take the assistance, the personal assistance. Take away a little AC. Put them all in a fucking small, a 4-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house where somebody's got to share a room. That creates tension and anger and bitterness, and that creates good art. And usually
have somebody turn up every now and then and like listen to some of the new songs and. I just don't think you guys have it yet. We'll give you another month. Then,
like Lars's dad. That's one of my favorite, my favorite moments in that Some Kind of Monster is he's sitting on the couch listening to that Metallica garbage that they were. And I don't even know what song Lars was playing him at that point, but Lars's dad was like, "No, this is not good." And Lars was like, he was pissed about it, and he was just like, okay, but his dad was dead balls correct. It's funny.
Dude,
Great.
Thank God, thank the metal gods for folks like Testament and men like you that still have a hunger, still have an appetite to keep doing this and doing it at a very, very, very high level. I'm so excited about what people are going to say when they hear this full At the Dirt record. And just one thing before we wrap up. You got some fucking monsters to play on that album as well. I mean, Jeff Loomis, you mentioned Steve DiGiorgio earlier. I mean, I'm such a massive DiGiorgio fan anyway. John Longstreth from Origin did a song.
Oh man, I was very fortunate. And plus, all the guys that are playing with me now in Atheist, I feel like Anthony Medaglia did a tremendous job on the drums. Because a lot of the drums, a lot of it, like I said, was already written. So these guys had to come in and play it. But Steve DiGiorgio wrote his own bass lines. John Longstreth wrote his own drums. Loomis wrote his own solo. So those are the, moments where those guys were able to come in. And it was really fun. Just, Steve DiGiorgio I've known for a long, long time. And his style is so unique. And I didn't have as much respect for him as I should have for the years. I didn't realize how good he was.
Yeah.
Until I just started going back and listening to just how much credit he deserves these days as one of the top guys in the game, man. Just in his style is just. But what he did on on Outside the Spiral with this fretless changed the song. It changed it and made it really unique. And he really found his. He found a way to be himself within, my four walls. And that was really, really great without us being in the room together. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that, it's hard to jump into somebody else's vision and still be yourself, and still do the things that you want to do. And yeah, he killed it, man. So, I look forward to people, again, Till the Dirt will be coming out soon. We'll hopefully spring of 2022. And I'm trying to find a way to kind of creep out a couple of songs so people can check it out. I sent it to all my my friends that in my circles, and every now and then come across a guy like yourself who I respect tremendously, your opinion. I watch other podcasts of yours, and I just really love having conversations like this with articulate, intelligent metal fans. It's so refreshing and fun for me to talk about things that, because in my circles I don't get an opportunity to do that very much. And on a local level, I live in a beachy town, where there's a lot of the musicians in this town play blues and southern rock, and just a million miles from our world. So it's really nice to be able to just talk shop and shoot the shit about things that people understand. Like I can mention a part in a song on the record Melissa from Merciful Fate, and you're gonna know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody else is like, Melissa, is that the Allman Brothers song? No, it's not the Allman Brothers song. it's a different Melissa.
just another sidebar. As we mentioned, Jeff Loomis, a band I'm sad about it daily, that Nevermore will never make another record again. And I'm obviously especially sad about Worrell. I met him a couple of times, and I always thought the world of him. I thought he was a fucking incredible vocalist. And some of that work that he kind of did on that Sanctuary that last Sanctuary record that came out, like I Am Low and things like that, it just astounding.
Yeah, he's a sorely missed man for sure. And Jeff Loomis is it's funny that I had never really listened to a lot of Nevermore until I started making this Till the Dirt music. And then people were saying to me that there's this has Nevermore qualities, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't know what that is. So I had to go back and kind of I've been friends with Jeff for a minute, and we really met when he was 15 years old. I think he came to our show in Wisconsin, but we weren't really friends. Now we're really good friends. We have kids that look very similar. He has a little boy that looks very much like my little boy. He's got curly blonde hair, and so we're like these metal dads. We send pictures of our kids back and forth, and that's like our albums. Now it's like, oh, check out, and so it's he's just such a great guy, and what a ridiculous talent. So humble. So is Steve D. Steve DiGiorgio, just the nicest guy. He was always very nice, but I guess I just realize more now, how much I appreciate people that are great and hugely talented that don't have egos. You know what I mean? Like, I just love it. It's so refreshing. And the best people in the game are usually the guys that don't have the egos, the guys that are, with a chip on their shoulder, like that Rings of Saturn kid. Fuck that guy. What I mean? Like,
I agree. I 100% agree. All right, my man. Thank you so much for your time. What a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure, anytime. And I guess we'll reconvene after the first of the year. And but I'd like to be able to, just on a personal level, send you some of the newer Till the Dirt songs, and just kind of get your take on it, and make sure that I'm staying on track. Because I know you'll tell me. I know you'll tell me, oh, sorry, bud, this is shit. And I'll be like, all right. And I need that. I appreciate those opinions. And don't ever feel like you can't tell me that. You seem like the guy.
I'll tell you for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And I like to surround myself with guys like that.
I'll send you some black metal stuff as well that you need to check out.
Some
good stuff too.
What's the creme de la creme of black metal? I'd like to.
I'll send you some good stuff. I mean, there's the black metal scene right now, in my view, is the most exciting in extreme music, bar none. There's nothing more exciting going on than in black metal. You need to know where to look. Obviously, it's like everything, but bands like Panzerfaust, Utkana, Selbst, Aversio Humanitatis. I mean, all from all over the world, just making fucking phenomenal music. So.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, shoot me some links. And I'm glad you're healthy, and hopefully, hopefully we can all stay healthy and happy, and people will go get their fucking vaccinations. God damn it, it's important so we can get on with our metal lives.
I'm gonna get mine sorted, but hopefully I get to see you as well at some point in 2022, man. It'd be great to meet you in person.
I mean, it's looking good for February. So, we are, just to tell the folks out there, we're still scheduled to do our headlining tour in February and March in Europe. And then I think we're going to do something in the States in the summer. And that's going to be announced real soon as well. But so, hopefully, I'm not sure I haven't looked at the dates in a while just because my heart's been broken how many times it's been postponed. So I don't even look at the exact dates now, but I believe that. Where are you living? Where are you?
So I live in outside a village, about an hour away from London. I don't think you guys are scheduled for the UK, but you're scheduled for all of Europe. And I think it's running kind of from the start of early Feb through to sort of late Feb.
Right. So we had a London show initially, and I think it fell off because of the rescheduling of it. But I think we're going to work really, really hard to make sure. Would you come to a London show?
Fuck yes. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Oh man, I look forward to that. Well, I look forward to having a fucking drink with you, my friend, in person. And
without a doubt.
Thank you for all your support. I really, really appreciate it.
It's a big pleasure, brother. Speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. You just listened to a track called Live and Live Again. I know Kelly mentioned it during our conversation. That is off of a record called Jupiter, which came out, if memory serves me correctly, back in 2010 on Season of Mist. So well worth checking out if you haven't done so already. I know it's not everybody's favorite Atheist record, but I must be honest, it absolutely is mine. And I've always loved Atheist. So great song, great record, and great conversation. So thank you very much to Kelly for coming on the show, and I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed that. I always like catching up with him, and like I said, just somebody who I hit it off with when he was on the podcast the first time, and hope to be able to clang a beer with him at some point down the line. Let's talk now about new music, and first up, I want to talk about the new Cult Burial EP. It's called Oblivion, and if you are watching this on YouTube and you look in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you are going to see the cover art for this record. And I must say, this is one of my favorite pieces of cover art that I've seen in quite a while. It reminds me a little bit of Angel Medina. I believe was the gentleman's name. He used to be a artist for Hellspawn and a couple of other Image titles. But anyway, I love the cover art. Also, absolutely love the EP. Some of you will recall that I spoke about Cult Burial's self-titled debut last year, and I really enjoyed that. But I must say, what they have done across the 3 songs that you will hear on Oblivion makes that record sound positively pedestrian. They have taken the doom elements, the death metal elements, and the black metal elements, turned the knobs up on all of them. And it makes 4 songs that are, I think, more complex, more challenging, more engaging, heavier. This is literally just a huge leap forward in every way, and the fact that this band continues to remain unsigned, I find absolutely befuddling. I mean, this is music that, I can see on Season of Mist, I can see on Apocalyptic Witchcraft, I can see on a whole host of forward-thinking labels. So once again, as I said last week with Trivax, if you're one of those labels and you're listening to this, you need to get on this shit. This is a top-notch band. I've spoken with the guys offline, and I know they're great as well. So I'm going to play one of my favorite tracks off of Oblivion, a EP I would very strongly advise you to go and check out on Bandcamp. And when you do, let them know that you discovered Cult Burial on Into the Necrosphere. This is a song called Parasite. Parasite by Cult Burial off an EP called Oblivion. And again, like I said, I would strongly suggest you go and check it out. They are on Bandcamp, and I'll post a link in the description of the podcast. But great record, and I call once again upon any forward-thinking label to check these guys out. They are absolutely fantastic. Great example of some of the talent that's being churned out in the UK at the moment. Another band which sits in those ranks would be Lvcifyre, who've just put out their new record, The Broken Seal, on Dark Descent Records. It's their first full-length record since Sun Eater that came out in 2014. The third overall that they've put out, their debut full-length, of course, being The Calling Depths. A lot of people really loved Sun Eater, and a lot of people have a fair amount of love for this band. So as you can imagine, when you make folks wait 7 years for a record, there's been a couple of boos from the gallery. People saying, "Oh, it's not as good as the old stuff," and it's blah blah blah. I personally think this is absolutely phenomenal, and phenomenal to a point where I would say the Broken Seal is a strong contender for one of my top 20 releases of 2021. It reminds me, if I had to kind of nutshell the sound, there's shades of the kind of crazy chaos violence of the first couple of Hate Eternal records, but it's filtered through a black metal prism. And then, in my view, where the chaos of those records that I mentioned, does kind of seem by design to be all over the place, and we kind of love those albums for it. This chaos is more organized, more targeted. And it means that across the 9 songs that are on this record, kind of everything sounds like it's sort of supposed to flow into each other. And I think one of the things that Lvcifyre also do extremely well is, so that they avoid numbing you to the violence and the craziness, they do from time to time throw in these really cool atmospheric bits. And when I say atmospheric, it's not anything that's overwrought. It's not anything that's too melodic. It remains dark. It remains really, really, in line with the rest of the atmosphere on the record. But it kind of helps break things up a little bit. And it means that when those frenetic parts kick back in, they are that much more effective. But overall, The Broken Seal is a fantastically produced record, extremely well performed. I think it is the work of guys that are really creatively hitting their stride, and I could not recommend it more highly. Whether you're a black metal fanatic, a death metal man, or whoever else, make sure that you check them out. I am going to lay the title track of this record on you right now. So this is Lvcifyre with The Broken Seal. The title track off their third record, The Broken Seal, that was Lvcifyre out of the UK, and fucking fantastic band. Available right now on Dark Descent Records. Go check them out on Bandcamp. Again, link in the description of the podcast. And hopefully I can get these guys on the show at some point, or at least one of them. But yeah, absolutely love that album. And I am very, very sure that most of you guys are going to enjoy it also. Let's now make our way over to Metal Storm and see what the latest news headlines are. So over on Metal Storm, we learned that Borknagar are announcing a 25th anniversary reissue of their debut album. It says Borknagar are pleased to announce a very special 25th anniversary reissue of their self-titled debut album, out for the first time ever worldwide via the band's longtime label partner Century Media Records on November 12th, 2021. I always liked those first three Borknagar releases, the Olden Domain and I believe it was called Quintessence in particular. And then Wintersorg joined the band, and things went pretty rapidly downhill in my opinion. And really, for lack of a better phrase, the band just ended up sounding weak. So I've not had any interest in them for some time. Do I have an interest in hearing a reissue of their debut album? Not really, because you can find it, pretty easily. But maybe it inspires them to do something decent for their next record. Exodus streaming lyric video for new single Clickbait is the newest single from Exodus's next full-length offering, Persona Non Grata, now available for streaming in the form of a lyric video. Persona Non Grata will land in stores on November 19th through Nuclear Blast. Gary Holt comments, very excited to launch the release of Clickbait from our upcoming record. Crushing and aggressive as hell, it captures the power of the new record perfectly. Getting more excited by the day. November 19th can't come fast enough. I've listened to this. I don't think it's bad. I quite like the Rob Dukes era of Exodus. I like Zetro as well, but I've got a bit of a soft spot for those Rob Dukes records. But either way, I think this is pretty decent. And Gary Holt is definitely somebody who I would love to have on the podcast, but two, the love that he has for what he does and how excited he still gets about their music, I think is very cool and very endearing. So great to see that. And, will Persona Non Grata be on the shortlist for the best of 2021? Very unlikely in my opinion, but, still, I can see I can definitely see it being an enjoyable record. And now, for some absolutely moronic reason, hold on. It's my swanky lighting that meant that I couldn't quite see the next page or where to click through for the next page. Anyway, we move on. Hate launch a Resurgence single as part of their forthcoming studio release, Rugia, which sounds like Italian food. Out on October 15th, Death Metal Maniacs Hate premiere the Resurgence single. Not listened to this yet. I did enjoy the last Hate record, but then they've never been a band that I've gotten all giddy with excitement over when they release something. I suspect I will be more excited once I actually hear the album. From one thrash legend in Exodus to another, Creator begin recording 15th studio album. German thrash metal legends Creator announced on their Facebook page that they are recording new music for their long-awaited follow-up to 2017's Gods of Violence, simply commenting, new Creator cooking. As previously reported, the new record will be produced by Arthur Rizek of Power Trip and Cavalera Conspiracy and is expected to be released sometime in 2022. Stay tuned for updates. I can only hope that Arthur stops the Creator guys from including any lyrics such as "fuck all your politics, fuck all your bullshit," as is the mainstay on any Cavalera Conspiracy record. Moving on, Archgoat unveil first track from upcoming record. By the way, I just realized with those oohs that I sound like a fucking old lady in a knitting shop seeing I will apologize in advance. It is very early in the morning. I have got a absolutely horrific week ahead of me. So I needed to kind of get this recording out of the way sooner rather than later. So if I sound a little bit a little bit brain foggy. It's actually not the COVID this time. It's just the fact that I've had to wake up at the crack of dawn to record this because the rest of today is hopefully not going to be a blue Monday, but it's going to be fucking rough. So anyways, Archgoat unveil first track from upcoming record as a taste of the upcoming album, Worship the Eternal Darkness. Long-standing black metalers Archgoat proudly unveil the first single, Heavens Ablaze. The new music output will be released on CD, tape, vinyl, and digitally on November the 26th. That's coming out on Deborah Morty Productions, one of my favorite record labels. I definitely see why they signed Archgoat. It's the single that I've heard I like. It does sound very primitive, and a little bit basic, but you could kind of understand. It's it's most certainly done so by design, and obviously these guys have been around for a while. I know that Cheyenne of Trivax, really likes it too. And frankly, again, if you have not yet listened to last week's episode, it's one of the best I think that I've done. It would definitely, if I had to do like a vote for top 10 best episodes that have occurred in the history of the show, I think it would probably rank fairly highly up there. Let's look at the next headline. Cradle of Filth present Necromantic Fantasy single after announcing their 13th full-length manifesto, Existence is Futile. They will see the light of day on October the 22nd. Cradle of Filth is now present a Vicente Cordero directed official video for the second single, Necromantic Fantasies. I know there were a couple of people that encouraged me to listen to the new stuff, and I did listen. I paid attention and I checked it out, but as it turns out, I think it is equally as abysmal as everything else that they've released. There's really one Cradle of Filth record which I haven't listened to in at least 15 years, but that I can recall truly enjoying, and that was not Midian, Cruelty and the Beast. But outside of that, I really do think every single other thing they've ever put out is a load of fucking shit. My Dying Bride touring plan with Moonspell and Borknagar unveiled. English Long Living Doomers, My Dying Bride, Portugal's gothic metal institution Moonsmell, and Norwegian representatives Borknagar and two Finnish acts, Wolfheart and Hinayana, will join forces for a 2022 fall European tour. Interesting to see Moonsmell on both the My Dying Bride and Paradise Lost lineups. What I do notice is that Moonsmell's name is above My Dying Bride's on the flyer for these shows, which, let's be frank, is a absolute disgrace. My Dying Bride I would be shocked if they're not a band who sell more records. But they're certainly the superior band. I don't understand quite why there would be why that would happen. I can't understand how anybody could still support Moonsmell after the last fucking disgrace that they released. In contrast to Last My Dying Bride, which was very enjoyable. But could be an interesting show, or could be an interesting lineup. So. Well done to Moonsmell for managing to finagle themselves a set on that. Moving on, Cynic detail next full-length offering, Ascension Codes. The legendary Cynic will be releasing its highly anticipated new full-length Ascension Codes on November the 26th via Season of Mist. It was mixed and co-produced by Warren Riker. The band is now sharing the first single, Mythical Serpents, which can be heard below. I know Katie Irizarry, friend of the show, an all-round awesome woman, was super excited about this. I have not yet listened to that single. I must be completely honest with you. I've never been the biggest Cynic fan, but I'll check it out, without a shout out either way. It says here, Mastermind Paul Masvidal comments, I invite you to sit back, close your eyes, and listen to Mythical Serpents as a fully realized piece of music. No phones or screens necessary, just the power of sound communicating directly into the ears of your heart. In the coming weeks, Cynic will be revealing further details on the constellation that is the Ascension Codes, including a Mythical Serpents animated video featuring the artwork of Martina Hoffman and Robert Fenosa. Stay tuned. The artwork doesn't look bad either. Right, Deeds of Flesh classic lineup unveiled. Nothing really to be excited about. Necromantia, new track streaming online. Greek black metal purveyors, Necromantia. Which is how when I met Sakis years back, that's how he that's my impression of how he pronounced it. Necromantia have launched a new lyric video for Inferno, the song from their farewell album, To the Depths We Descend. The latter sees its official release on October 15th. Farewell album. I didn't even realize that they were fucking off. Don't know what they're going to be doing, but anyway. Opeth to embark on US tour with Mastodon the coming November and December. This coming November and December, I should say. The Swedish metal institution Opeth and Georgia-based Mastodon will be heading out on a co-headlining run over the United States. Special guests on all 15 shows will be Zeal and Ardor. I don't like Zeal and Ardor, but I do tip my hat to these guys for taking out a band like that with them on tour. Obviously, Kelly and I spoke about this during our conversation. And like I said, I do find it somewhat offensive, actually significantly offensive, that, with this Blacklist release that Metallica have done, they should have the shit on that they do, rather than giving bands, both sort of established and and upcoming, an opportunity to showcase their chops. Mastodon being a great example. Imagine Mastodon doing a cover of I don't know, Wherever I May Roam, or imagine Opeth doing a cover of Nothing Else Matters. I would take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday before I hear fucking Miley Cyrus do it. But, like I've mentioned in the past, those guys have, as much money as, any band in this scene has ever had. They've earned the right to do whatever they want, but, both myself and Kelly agreed, it's going away from, certainly, I think a bit of a fuck you to where they came from. I really do. But then you could make the argument in some cases that the Black Album was a bit of a fuck you to where they came from. If you think about who produced it versus what the general perception would have been in 1986 of anything that band produced. They did kind of thumb their nose at the underground there, so maybe it's more fitting that they have all this fucking nonsense on the Blacklist. But I mean, they shouldn't call it the Blacklist. They should call it the Flower List. I think it's atrocious. And it's actually made me dislike that album significantly more than I did previously. All right, let's move on. Faith No More cancel US tour dates. This was news right before I spoke to Kelly, which is why it kind of came up over the course of our conversation. We didn't go into detail about it, but the news essentially is that Mike Patton of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle cancelled all of both bands' forthcoming tour dates. And he has cited mental health reasons aggravated by the lockdowns, which I get to a degree, and he's a good man, so I hope that not only a good man, but I mean he's a guy whose talent I have admired for almost all of my life. So I do hope whatever is wrong, he gets better soon. I would fucking hate to, hear about him having killed himself or something terribly tragic, like you had with Chris Cornell or someone like that. So whatever is going on, I really do hope that Mike gets help, and I hope he's back stronger and better than ever. Like I said, one of my favorite singers, and a guy who I would for sure, if I could, if I had some sort of fucking genie wish that I could make, I would definitely, one of the wishes that would be under strong consideration is to be able to sing like that guy, because he really is incredible. And having seen him live a couple of times, he's even better live. Static X announced North American tour with Smear Factory. I'm not going to talk about that because it's not a tour I'd bother to go and see. But what I will say is I am astounded that grown-ups have been speaking positively about the new Smear Factory record on online. I don't get it. I think it is utterly utterly atrocious. The lyrics, like I've said before, sound like they were written by a 10-year-old. The music is the same fucking two-note nonsense with a little bit of keyboard smattered above the top that Fear Factory have been peddling ever since they got a whiff of success on Obsolete. I just think it's absolutely fucking atrocious. It's so atrocious. It's bordering on being embarrassing, in my opinion. But to each their own. If folks like it, they like it. I just personally think that it's bordering on being not even bordering on being unlistenable. I think it is unlistenable. All right, let's move on to Blabbermouth. See what those crazy libs have to say this time. We've spoken about Metallica's Black Album. I don't want to talk about it again. Exodus drummer Tom Hunting performs live for the first time since undergoing total gastrectomy. He performed live with Hellhunter on stage last Saturday at the Parkside in San Francisco to play the classic song, or classic Exodus song, Metal Command. Great to see that he was in a position where he could do that again. Also great to see that he's recovering and doing well. Like I've said in the past, I spent a night with him and old Gaza on the booze. A lot of fun. He's a great guy. And I'm glad, even if it were, fucking, who do I really dislike in metal? Dave Mustaine. I don't wish ill on anybody. And I'm glad to hear that Tom is recovering. This is a sorry excuse for a headline. Is Ghost preparing to announce a U.S. tour? It's akin to a news headline, is Jackie thinking of eating breakfast? Later on in the day, is Jackie contemplating taking a shit? Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Matt Sorum, why I wasn't invited to take part in the Guns N' Roses reunion tour. I've always liked Matt's drumming. I'll always have a soft spot for Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I know that's not the popular records to love, but those were the records that introduced me to Guns N' Roses, and I genuinely do think that as much as there's a lot of fat that needs trimming on the albums, and I think doing the single album Choose Your Illusion thing is fucking cool, and you really can pull together an incredible record. Out of the best songs on that album, or on those two albums, I should say. But I think at their peak, I'm just going to come out and say this, I think the Use Your Illusion records are better than Appetite for Destruction. But anyways, it says here, asked why he thinks he wasn't invited on the reunion tour, Matt said, I think Axl is a loyal guy. He likes his band he's had for a long time. He didn't look at it that way. If anyone in that band is loyal, it's probably him. He was like, I'm going to bring my guy, Frank Ferrer. If I get Slash, that's cool. If I get Duff, that's cool too. And that's enough. That's how it went down. That's what they're doing. Again, another opinion I would want to air vis-a-vis Guns N' Roses, and this will be especially true of any new music that they release. If Izzy is not in the band, it's not Guns N' Roses. If Izzy is not in the reunion, it's not a true reunion. That guy's role in Guns N' Roses is hugely overlooked by people. To his credit, Slash talks about it at length in his autobiography. But Izzy to me is the glue that held that band together, both creatively, and from my understanding, as a dude as well. Possessed, Jeff Becerra walks again for the first time in 30 years. That's fucking insane. Says here, Possessed frontman Jeff Becerra was shot in a robbery in 1989, leaving him partially paralyzed and wheelchair-bound. And says he was able to walk again for the first time in over 30 years with the help of robotic legs. That's amazing. Earlier today, Becerra shared a video of him taking a few steps at what appears to be a physical therapy facility or a hospital, and he included the following messages. I walked again for the first time in over 30 years with the help of robotic legs. I cannot imagine the amount of joy that washed over that guy's soul when that was able to happen. I mean, something simple like this weekend I did some more steak and I could finally taste it properly for the first time since I've had COVID, and frankly, I was fucking elated. And that is a minor thing to not being able to walk for upwards of 30 plus years, and as a matter of fact 33 years. And or 32 years, sorry, I should say, and then being able to kind of experience that sensation again. So hopefully this is a permanent thing now, and he's gonna or he'll have the robotic legs to carry him around. But that's a good feel. That's a nice feel good story. I'll tell you what's not a very nice story. Over the weekend, and I mentioned this because Cheyenne and I spoke a lot about wrestling, and we spoke a lot about Ric Flair. Over the weekend, Vice aired their Dark Side of the Ring series, which generally speaking, I've always thought is really well done. Very entertaining, very informative, and if you're into wrestling and you're my age, most likely you're kind of in it for the backstage soap opera as much as what goes on in the ring. Anyway, the topic was the plane ride from hell, the very infamous flight back from London, I think in 2002 or 2003, upon which many shenanigans occurred, including, as the documentary tells us, Ric Flair standing naked and waving his Venus around like a helicopter, and then also forcing a flight attendant to touch it. Tommy Dreamer of ECW fame has already been banned or at least temporarily suspended off Impact Wrestling because he's appeared to make light of the fact, or make light of the situation on the documentary. Which again, sidebar, you're asking the man for an opinion, and that's then getting him fired. So good luck getting anybody on your show again who's going to say anything remotely controversial. But what I will say is I'm certainly not going to go down the track of Tommy Dreamer. I think that what Ric Flair did was stupid, disgusting, distasteful, ungentlemanly, but I have said this in the past. This cancel culture malarkey is going to come for everybody. We've seen over the course of the last 18 months, comedians, musicians, wrestlers, actors, everybody fall. And it's, in some cases, I think it's right that people are held to account for things that happened. I do know that in the case of Flair, I know that there was an out-of-court settlement, or at least that's my understanding. I don't know what sum of money the flight attendants received. What I do think is, I feel a little hypocritical is when you've received a financial settlement, kept quiet for kind of 20 years or 25 years, and then you decide, right now is the time for me to rehash this and kind of get the person in trouble again. But yeah, I mean, there's a part of me, like I said, that thinks that people should be called to account for things. There's another part of me that feels like you need to take into context the time in which these things happened and the fact that people's attitudes towards things were different. I mean, I from my understanding, Ric Flair hasn't done the helicopter in the last 5 or 10 years. And then I also think you kind of need to go, okay, do we genuinely want to, revisit every shred of history, through the prism of whatever the moral standard of present day is? Because, you'll very soon find yourself, not wanting to watch a single movie, not being able to listen to any music that predates, 2017. And if that's something that you think is if the juice is worth the squeeze, then fine. For me, frankly, I don't think that it is. And again, I don't think what these people did was right by any stretch of the imagination. And if anybody has skeletons buried in the closet and they've yet to be taken to task for it, then at the very least, in Ric Flair's case as an example, I mean, I would expect a very sincere and groveling apology. Whatever restitution needs to be made to the flight attendant, that should be made. But I do think that people need to understand that the world was a very, very, and I'm increasingly realizing it was a very, very different place, during that time. And as I said, people behaved in a different way. If you want to, if you want to bottom line it, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would say, you go back into the 80s or the 70s, and I don't think there's a single, high profile musician that won't be, in very squarely in the crosshairs of the cancel culture. Motley Crue, Ministry, Guns N' Roses, the guys from Metallica, without a shadow of a doubt, Megadeth. The list goes on. I spoke a while back with, I can't even remember who it was. I was talking to, actually, I think might have been Alan Averill or Katie Irizarry. But I was talking about having read that book about the Manson family called Chaos, and all the stuff that was going on at the not the Spahn Ranch, at the Tate House. And how a drug dealer who had done them wrong, they tied the guy up, whipped him, and then sodomized him for the entertainment of the guests. This was 1969. So, I mean, there was fucked up stuff going on. Does it mean I'm, as much as Roman Polanski is a scumbag, does it mean that I have to, no longer enjoy Chinatown? Or that I should never watch The Pianist again? I don't necessarily see it that way. So, just thought I would share that. Like I said, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I think that if you do anything like that, it is disgraceful, and hopefully at some point, more women will have picked up MMA and are able to put a beat down on somebody like that, because they fucking deserve it. But at the same time, also, times have definitely moved on, and I think that it's I think you're limiting your own ability to have an appreciation for things that were in the past, when you revisit everything with the express intent of uncovering everything bad that somebody has done and raking them over the coals for it. All right. I'll make this the last headline of the segment, just because this is the first time I'm seeing it, and this is so fucking funny. Is this David Lee Roth's caricature of Donald Trump? Since April 2020, Van Halen singer David Lee Roth has spent much of his time creating COVID-themed drawings. He calls them comics, and then sharing the finished works on his social media channels. His latest 4 pieces of artwork, called The Don, an apparent caricature of former President Donald Trump's orange appearance and signature hairdo, the hurricane formerly known as Prince, Flood, and Delta can be viewed below. According to a New York Times profile from the summer of 2020, Roth picked up the pen and ink during his coronavirus lockdown. But he had long been interested in art. My approach is the best of both worlds, vintage and hyperatomic digital, sort of like watching Dragnet on your iPad. That does look like a caricature of the Don. When it comes to politics, I've kind of got to a point where I'm a little like Newman of an episode of Seinfeld, where Jerry was dating his ex, and he couldn't understand, why Newman had left, had broken up with this woman. And Newman kind of looks at him in a typical Newman way, for those of you that watch Seinfeld, and says to him, if she's good enough for you, that's all that matters. And he starts to snigger. And I kind of feel like that about politics. If I don't care necessarily what side of the aisle that you sit on, but if you look at the fucking shit show that's going on in U.S. politics right now with the Biden administration, if you look at that and runaway inflation, increasing crime, shambles as far as government overreach is concerned, insane deficit spending, being a laughing stock on the foreign stage because you have bungled the withdrawal in Afghanistan. If that's good enough for you, that's all that matters. The other thing that I saw this week that I thought was hysterical, again, for those of you that follow politics, AOC walked out in this fucking stupid-looking white dress at a Met Gala. The ticket prices to get to the Met Gala are $30,000 a pop. On the back of her dress, however, she has this, in big, bold red letters, tax the rich. And her argument is she did it to start a conversation. She's been hit since with 4 ethics violations because, one, a politician is not allowed to receive a gift of $30,000. Apparently, the dress cost over $40,000, so ethics violation number 2. And she also sat at a $100,000 table because apparently it's one thing to pay $30,000 to gain entry into the Met for this fucking pathetic soiree with the rich. But then, what's his name? In order to have the privilege of sitting at a table, you have to fork out 6 figures. So anyway, she's been hit with multiple ethics violations amidst her bold political statement about taxing the rich at a gala where that is exclusively for the ultra rich. 2 things that stand out to me more than just her fucking grifting. And she really is, in my opinion, the Milo Yiannopoulos of the left. Milo Yiannopoulos was a irritating right-wing provocateur who, very clearly didn't believe half of what he was saying, and kind of went out and tried to provoke the left as much as he possibly could by being increasingly outrageous. I really do think AOC is like that as well. But that aside, 2 things that really stand out for me. If you look at the photos from the Met Gala, you have this one where AOC is leaving the building. She is without a mask, and you've got these 2 servant wenches behind her, both of those being forced to mask. And all of the folks at the Met Gala that were in positions of being waiters, bartenders, or whatever the case may be, are forced to mask, as though the germs can somehow pick out who the goodies are and who the baddies are. And then the other thing that was hysterical, and I'm going to just crack this up on my phone so that I don't get the facts wrong. But the imbecile that made the dress for her also joined in the chorus line of taxing the rich. There's been some investigation done about her. And it turns out that according to said investigation, she is a tax freeloader, I think is the phrase that was used. Where the fuck is the article now? Anyways, I'm struggling to find it, so I would only assume that it has now been removed from the website that I read it from previously. But long story short, it turns out that she owes something like $106,000 in back taxes. And she has been repeatedly, there we go. The height of hypocrisy, designer of AOC's Tax the Rich dress owes taxes in multiple states. So the IRS put 6 federal liens on the company between April 2018 and April 2019, totaling $103,220 as a result of the company's failure to remit employee payroll taxes. Further down the line, it also says her parent company has also faced multiple legal challenges for habitual non-payment of worker benefits. And there old AOC went and trusted her to join in the conversation about being a working woman of color. I'll say this. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. And if people haven't cottoned onto this by now yet, you need to wake the fuck up. The elites, whether they're on the right or on the left, are laughing at you, and they are laughing at all of us. And when they say tax the rich, they don't mean tax the super rich, because when tax the rich happens, all of the folks that are billionaires and 100 million strong, whatever the case may be, the first thing that they do is they pick up the phone, they call their accountants, and they say, okay, right, how many tax-free wrappers can I stick this money in? What are all the loopholes that I can exploit so that I don't have to pay any tax? You don't see any of those motherfuckers signing federal checks, which they're legally allowed to do, and saying, listen, I've decided that I need to pay my fair share. So here's another 1 billion, or here's another 2 billion. And I just want to make sure that it goes into the right hands. So, a gift from me to the federal government. That's not what these people are saying. They're saying tax anybody who's not able to avoid tax in the way that these guys are, and make us richer. Because again, it should strike everybody as a little bizarre that somebody who's on, I believe AOC's salary is $174,000 a year, which is already decent. That somebody like that, is going to a $30,000 Met Gala, sitting at a $100,000 table, wearing a $40,000 dress. And I can tell you right now, these ethics investigations, fuck all will come from it, because the swamp looks out for the swamp. But that's a side rant. But like I said, the elites are laughing at you, which is why I deeply believe that people that allow politics, and particularly their support of specific politicians, to separate them or divide them the way that some people do. Why you would do that, I have no fucking idea. These people don't give a fuck about you. Like I said, whether they're Republican, whether they're Democrat, whether you're in the UK, they're Labour or Conservative, they don't give a shit. All they care about is getting into office. And once they're in office, the name of the game is take money out of the pocket of the citizenry and put it in my pocket somehow. There are people that I'm very good friends with who I differ from an extraordinary amount. Kelly and I, when it comes to politics, I'm pretty sure are, at polar opposite ends in many ways. But why bother even talking about stuff like that when there's so much else in life that's worth celebrating? Music, art, movies, humor, comedy. Those are the things that connect us, and I really do think that it behooves us all to focus on those things. And on that note, I am wrapping up the news for this week. That also brings me to the end of another episode. Thank you so much to Kelly for coming on the show. Remember to check out that Cult Burial EP as well as the Lvcifyre record. And thank you to all of you if you've stuck around until the very end. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the support, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast. And update on guests, and particularly episode 100. So I have already kind of hinted at it enough that I may as well just let the cat out of the bag. The plan right now is to do episode 100 with at least half or hopefully more of the members of Voices. Unfortunately, I have not heard anything back from the guys at the podcast studio in Wimbledon. I believe it's called Outset or Onset Studios. I asked them a very simple couple of questions. One, how much does it cost to, or how much would it cost me to do a podcast with 4 men for about 2 hours? And also, is it possible to film it, whilst we're doing it? No reply from them, so they can go fuck themselves. So right now, I'm just in the midst of trying to figure out what the other options would be. Sam and I have spoken, and we've, talked about possibly going to Mendy's Studios. But I mean, I don't really have the equipment to kind of rig up, enough microphones for all of those folks. So I don't know. I'm in the process of nutting around with some ideas, but I will have probably a bit more headspace next week, and be able to kind of get that done and hopefully confirmed. I also have not one, not two, but 3 whales on the line as far as guests are concerned. One of which, and I'm not going to announce any of them because I'm as fucking paranoid and superstitious as it comes. So I know that if I announce it, none of them will happen. One of them actually was recorded on Friday night, but there were technical gremlins that crept in. So I'm going to have to redo that this weekend. The other one is supposed to be for this weekend as well. So could be that next week I come out guns blazing, or it could also be that next week you guys get a whole show of me talking about music and talking shit. But I'll hopefully pull one out of the bag. These 3 guys are men that I've had in my eye line for quite a while. So, should everything come off, it's going to be a good one. And, frankly, it's such a shame about the Friday night episode because there was an awesome conversation, with a guy in a band who I thoroughly enjoy. I know you guys like too. But anyway, I'm going to play out with a track right now by a band that put out an EP this weekend called Concealment. The band is called Knowledge Through Suffering. I really like this. Spoke about it on my socials. The song is called Let the Earth Sprout. So to all of you bad motherfuckers, I want to say stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see all of you next week.